All right, if you have solar panels on your roof in South Africa, you're going to want to listen up. There's a major deadline just around the corner, and trust me, ignoring it could cost you a whole lot more than you think. So let's break down exactly what this is all about.
So let's just cut right to the chase with the biggest question of all. Right now, as you're watching this, is your solar system actually legal? The answer might just surprise you, because under the Electricity Regulation Act, the rules are way clearer and stricter than most people realize.
To really get a grip on this, we've got to understand the mandate itself. We're going to break down what the rules are, who exactly they apply to, and, Eskom's official reasoning for putting all this in place.
Okay, first things first, let's talk lingo. The government has a fancy name for this, small-scale embedded generation, or SSEG for short. Now, the key number you see here is 100 kVA. That's basically just a measure of power. And since pretty much every home and small business system is way under that, yeah, this definition covers just about everyone.
So, who actually needs to get on this registration train? Well, it all boils down to one simple question. Are you connected to the grid? If your solar system is wired into your home's main power, and this is the important part, even if you don't sell a single watt back to Eskom, you have to register. The only people who get a pass are those who are completely, 100% provably off the grid. For basically all modern hybrid systems, that means registration is a must.
So why the big push all of a sudden? Well, officially, it's all about two things: keeping the grid stable and keeping workers safe. And that safety issue, that's a big one. They're trying to prevent something called islanding. Just imagine, a technician working on a power line they think is totally dead, but your solar system is still pumping live electricity into it. Yeah, incredibly dangerous. Registration basically gives Eskom a map of every single power source out there so they can keep their crews safe.
Look, knowing the rules is one thing, but it's the timing that makes this so urgent. There's a serious deadline looming, and Eskom is using a classic carrot-and-stick approach to get everyone on board.
This timeline really shows you the window of opportunity we're in right now. We're in a grace period where you can get this all sorted out for free, and it's pretty simple. But that window slams shut on March 31st, 2026. And after that, well, the process gets more expensive and more complicated.
When you look at the numbers, the choice is kind of a no-brainer. If you act before the deadline, Eskom waives all the registration fees. We're talking a potential saving of up to 10,000 Rand. But if you wait, you'll be on the hook for those fees. Plus, you'll be risking fines on top of that.
And speaking of that stick, here's the number that's been making headlines: a potential fine of over 6,000 Rand if you don't comply. Now, to be fair, the legal basis for this exact amount is still being debated, but it is the official number Eskom has put out there.
Okay, so how do you actually get compliant? You're probably thinking this sounds like a total nightmare of paperwork. But here's the good news. The process is actually a whole lot simpler than it used to be. It really just boils down to getting the right documents in order, and we're going to walk through them right now.
And honestly, this right here, this is a total game changer. For years, one of the biggest roadblocks for homeowners was having to get an expensive ESCA-registered engineer to sign off. Well, that requirement has now been relaxed for most home systems, which makes getting compliant so much more accessible. The whole process really boils down to these golden 3 documents. First, you need a standard certificate of compliance, for the wiring. Second, you need a certificate for your specific inverter model. And third, you need a final test report from your installer that just confirms everything is working safely. That's it.
And check this out. Eskom is even cutting you some slack here. They give you a full year after you've done your initial registration to hand in that final test report. That gives you plenty of breathing room to get all your ducks in a row without the pressure.
But let's get serious for a minute. Ignoring this mandate goes way beyond just fines and fees. The real risks of having an unregistered system are much, much bigger, and it's so important to understand what's truly at stake.
This brings us to a really critical question, one I know a lot of you with older systems are probably asking. What on earth happens if my inverter isn't on the approved list?
So if your inverter isn't on that approved list, things get a bit tricky. You simply can't register it as a grid-tied system. That leaves you stuck between a rock and a hard place. You either have to replace the inverter entirely, or you have to go through the very complicated process of proving your system is physically incapable of sending power back to the grid.
Now, this is without a doubt the biggest risk of all. And it doesn't come from Eskom. It comes from your insurance company. Think about it. If there's a fire or some other disaster at your home, even if it has nothing to do with your panels, an insurer could reject your entire claim, all because they can classify your system as an illegal installation. That is a financially devastating risk you just don't want to take.
And if you're sitting there thinking, piffed, how are they ever going to find out? Well, you might want to think again. Eskom is reportedly using satellite imagery to spot solar panels from the sky and then cross-referencing that with their registration database. Yep, they can literally see your system from space.
Okay, enough of the scary stuff. Because this isn't just about dodging penalties. There's a really powerful upside here. Getting compliant is actually about future-proofing your investment and unlocking the true potential of your solar system.
So what's in it for you? Well, two really cool things, actually. First, Eskom will often upgrade you to a brand new smart meter completely free, which opens the door for all sorts of future grid features. And second, and this is the big one, registration is your ticket to net billing, the system that allows you to get paid or credited for the extra power you're generating.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. You've invested in a powerful, valuable asset for your home. The only question left now is, have you made it a compliant one? A legal, insured, and future-ready asset. The deadline is coming up fast.